Dear students, my name is K. Nagaraj, working as a assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering. Today I am explaining about types of environmental hazards and disasters. So now going to the classification of environmental hazard. So first of all, we have to know the definition of the hazard. Hazard is a natural component that adversely affect on the property and human life as well as environment, that is called as a hazard. This hazard classified into two types. So first one is natural hazard, second one is man-induced hazards. This man-induced hazards, this man-induced hazards also called as a anthropogenic hazards. This natural hazards again classified into two types. First one is planetary hazards and second one is extraplanetary hazards. This planetary hazards again classified into two types. First one is endogenous hazards, second one is exogenous hazards. Next go to the disaster. So disaster is a sudden or catastrophic event that causes the widespread and immeasurable damage to the life, property and as well as environment, that is called as a disaster. These disasters are classified into two types. First one is natural disaster and the second one is man-made disasters. This classification is based upon the impacts of the disasters. So for going to the first type, that is natural disaster. These natural disasters are again classified into two types. First one is major natural disaster and the second one is minor natural disaster. First one is major natural disasters like floods, cyclone, drought, earthquake, and minor natural disasters like cold waves, landslides, thunderstorms. Next, go to the man-made disasters. These man-made disasters are classified into two types. First one is major man-made disaster and second one is minor man-made disaster. In these major man-made disasters like forest fire, it is also called as a wildfire, epidemics, deforestation and the creation of the pollution. And the second one, minor man-made disasters like train and road accidents, bomb blasting and food poisoning, etc. Now coming to the natural hazard. Natural hazard is a natural component or substance that adversely affect on the human life, property and as well as environment, that is called as a natural hazard. This natural hazard are classified into two types. First one is planetary hazards and the second one is extraplanetary hazard. So planetary hazard means which occurs inside of the planet, that is called as a planetary hazards. Extraplanetary hazards means which occurs outside of the planets, that means space. Examples are geomagnetic storms and meteorite impacts. Next, coming to the planetary hazards. Planetary hazards are again classified into two types. So first one is endogenous hazards, second one is exogenous hazards. Now coming to the endogenous hazards. These endogenous hazards which originate inside of the earth, that is called as a endogenous hazards. Examples are volcanic eruption, earthquake, landslides. Next go to the exogenous hazards. Exogenous hazards which originate above the surface of the earth, that means atmosphere, that is called as a exogenous hazards. Examples are cyclones, droughts, floods, lightning and soil erosion. Now coming to the endogenous hazards. Now coming to the endogenous hazards. In this endogenous hazards, first one is earthquake. So earthquake is defined as it is the shaking of the earth surface resulting from the sudden energy from the earth crust that creates a seismic waves, that is called as a earthquake. The earth crust is made up of the number of large plates which are subjected to compression, tension and as well as shearing stresses. This large plates is called as a tectonic plates. These which these are in lithosphere of the earth layer. So these earthquakes are measured by using seismograph. Seismograph, it is made up of two axes. Horizontal axis is x-axis, vertical axis is y-axis. This horizontal axis is represents the timing duration. The vertical axis is represent the intensity of the earthquake. That means magnitude of the earthquake that shows on the logarithmic scale that ranges from 1 to 10. The size of the earthquake is measured by using logarithmic base, that is rectal square. That is rectal square. If you clearly observe the image shows the effects of the earthquake. So earthquake means, so inside of the earthquake, inside of the below the ground surface, both the tectonic plates destructive movements, the destructive movements so releases the some energy. That energy it reaches to the ground surface. After the reaches the ground surface, that energy creates a seismic waves. That waves is called as a earthquake. That waves travels along the surface at certain distances. So certain distances, these earthquakes are caused below the earth surface. That origin point is called as a focus point. That focus point above directly point on the ground surface, that is called as a epicenter. That epicenter creates a seismic waves. Now coming to the volcanic eruption. So volcanic eruption, it is refers to the process by which solid, liquid, gaseous material from the earth crust, that means interior of the earth, that earth crust are ejected on the surface of the earth through an opening or vent pipe. That process is called as a volcanic eruption. This volcanic eruption, this molten and semi-solid state of the rock is called as a magma which present below the surface, below the ground surface, and lava which presents above the ground surface. These eruptions can cause the lateral blasts, lava flows, ash flows, mudslides, sometimes creates avalanches and falling the ashes and flash floods. It can also trigger the earthquakes, landslides and mudslides, etc. If you clearly observe the image, that image shows volcanic eruption on the earth surface. Volcanic eruption on the earth surface. If clearly observe that, so below the ground surface, that is called as a magma chamber. This magma chamber, it is made up of the earth crust material and also combustible material. This material which forms due to the pressure or dissolved gases in the magma chamber, that collects into the magma chamber. Into the magma chamber, when added to the additional magma, that total volume of the magma in magma chamber will rises to reach the ground surface through an a main vent and secondary vent pipes. That is also called as a openings. Through an openings to magma to reaches the ground surface. That magma reaches to the ground surface, that explode into the air. That explode into the air. After the reaches the ground surface, that magma is called as a lava. So if lava is low viscosity, that lava travel to certain kilometers, and if the viscosity is high, that creates a cinders at crater of the vent pipe. So crater, sometimes that crater creates a gently slope, that is called as a sealed cone. shield cone. If lava reaches the ground surface, that creates a settle by layer. That layer is called as a tephra layers. This is about volcanic eruption. Now coming to the landslide. So landslide is the movement of the rock, soil and debris down a slope due to the gravitational force. That is called as a landslide. So landslides can occur in various environments from the mountains regions to the coastal areas, and also that can cause the significant damage to the property, infrastructure and human life, and was also disruption of the road networks and sometimes also disruption of the telecommunication and power lines. Now coming to the next point, they can be triggered by the rains, floods, earthquakes as well as man-made factors such as a deforestation and mining and over explosions of the blastings. Okay, na? Next point. So now coming to the next point, landslides have the potential to happen anywhere a steep slope is present. So if for example, for example, excess of the deforestation that leads to the landslide means what? So some of the trees having a long penetrated roots. If the cut the trees, that root disturb in the soil and surrounding soil, that may lead to the cause the landslides and also over explosions of the mining procedures for the purpose of the granite. So the clearly observe the image. That image shows the landslides occurs. These landslides are mainly caused hilly areas or steep slope areas. If you clearly observe the topmost layer of the sand soil layer from the rest of the material towards to the downward movement. This movement disruption of the road network. Now coming to the second one, cyclone. This cyclone is undergoing to the exogenous hazards. Exogenous hazards means which originate above the surface of the earth. That means atmosphere is called as a exogenous hazards. In this exogenous hazards, first is cyclone. A cyclone is a large scale air mass that rotates around a strong center of low atmospheric pressure is called as a cyclone. These cyclones are very powerful and violent windstorms in which wind moves very fast in a circular direction around a low pressure area. That low pressure area is called as a cyclone. These cyclones can bring the heavy rains, strong winds and storm surges, and they can cause the significant damage to the coastal areas and behind. If this wind blows in anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. If you shows the image, that image clearly shows the cyclone. So the cyclone, if for example the blue color represents the ocean, so the ocean water evaporation in the form of water vapor, that water vapor which reaches to the high altitudes, that air is converted into a warm air. That warm air, it reaches to high altitudes, that will be converted into a cool air. That cool air reaches the ground surface. That warm air is evaporated from the eye of the cyclone. So, if the ocean, when the warm air upwards reaches the high altitudes, the surrounding air, that means cool air, attracts the warm air. That point is called as a low pressure area. The low pressure area creates a cyclone. Now coming to the flood. So flood occurs when the water overflows on the land that is normally dry. So this flood occurs after the losses. Losses means so some of the water is going to be evaporated and some of water going to be infiltrated into the groundwater. After the losses, the excess of water overflowing on the ground surface, that water is called as a flood. It can cause the damage to the property, infrastructure, and as well as surrounding environment. So this flooding can result from a variety of factors including the heavy rainfall and rapid snow melt and avalanches and activities. Human activities. So now coming to the drought. A drought is an extended period of the abnormally low precipitation, that is called as a drought, that leading to a shortage of the water in the affected region. So drought means if you take the one region, in that region there is a no possibility of the precipitation or insufficient of the rainfall, that is called as a drought. These droughts can have severe impacts on the agriculture, water supply and ecosystem. So agriculture means if that region there is no water, so if the agriculture purpose there is no crop or yield from that region, and also the availability of the water and the quality of the water may reduce it, thus result in the imbalance of the ecosystem means the relationship between the man and nature. So if you clearly observe the image shows the drought. In that area there is a no precipitation consecutive months and years. So now coming to the soil erosion. Soil erosion is the process by which top layer of the soil away by the natural process such as a wind and water or by the human activities, that is called as a soil erosion. The topmost soil, the displacement of the topmost layer from the rest of the material is called as a soil erosion. This soil erosion may lead to the degradation of the land, means due to the reduction of the soil bearing capacity and fertility of the soil, and also it reduces the agriculture productivity. If reduce the fertility of the soil, that directly impact on the productivity means yield from the crop, that will also reduce it. And environmental damages, so the greenery on the earth surface that get away by the water and air. If you clearly observe the soil erosion means the soil in that area soil may lose the strength and fertility. Thank you.